What's something that the community needs to know about you?
We're not going to be traditional in the way that we approach things. It's probably going to be a lot looser than it is today. It's probably going to be a lot more, let's say, informal than it is right now. But I think it's going to be good.
In terms of biggest challenge, I see a lack of a vision and a common agenda on part of the African American community. We need an agenda, we need a vision, and we need a common agenda.
I think the biggest challenge that the African American community faces is education and not wanting more for themselves.
I feel that the greatest challenge that we face in the African American community is disunity.
The greatest challenge is to change this system that was put in place. You know, it's not by accident that the things that we have to face in the Black community is by design.
And I think the biggest challenge that the African American community faces is the attack on the family unit. In order for us to overcome that, we have to understand what those systematic attacks are and be able to put forth some efforts in rebuilding the family unit to address some of our issues.
I think one of the greatest problems African Americans face in this community is the school to prison pipeline, because as the education that African Americans get is not up to par in most public schools, and because of that they really have no other option, and they think they have no other option, and they turn to like selling drugs or crime and just to get some money. That's just something that needs to be fixed in this society.
The biggest problem facing the African American community right now is our inability to regain and distribute our culture.
Repeat that. Our inability to
regain and distribute our culture widely and freely. The culture that was taken from us when we were brought here on the slave ships.
And I believe the greatest challenge facing the African American community can be broken down into three tenets. One being the constant attacks on voting rights. Secondly, being the single-parent households that are often too common and too familiar. And thirdly, the lack of self-love that we have for one another.
I think the biggest challenge that we have is how people look at us. We are already at a disadvantage. Stereotypes that are given to us. Some people expect us to be lesser than.
I just want to say, I hate going last because all the good ideas are gone.
No, man, come on.
Like the other panelists saying, coming together, because it's hard for us to come together for something positive rather than something negative.
What is our perspective regarding leadership within the African American community?
We have a tendency to equate being in the public eye to being a leader.
What's a leader without people to lead? Like, he has to have people follow the leader in order for him to lead us in the right direction. Or her, of course. But I think that if they have the right agenda, that we'll follow that person, because we don't want to just walk around blindly with the leader rather than having something that end goal, basically.
We put our trust in some of the community leaders that we thought would bring the entire population of people with them, and that didn't happen. So certain people got elevated, but we all needed to be elevated.
I have a button that says the system isn't broken. It was designed that way. We often say that integration did us a greater disservice than segregation, because during segregation we were more self-determining. We had our own businesses. We had our own institutions that supported our communities and our families. And when we talked about role models, that was where our source of strength and role models and visions came from, or the people in our community that were genuinely working on the behalf of the people and not being concerned about their personal
Agendas.
or individual gains and agendas.
Ms. Dion, you attend a school that is not predominantly African American. What's your perspective regarding the fact that the African American community is integrated and has been for your lifetime?
I feel like being surrounded by predominantly white people has opened my eyes more to how people are everywhere. Like, I'm around white people at school, but I'm also around black people at home, so I feel like I have a balance of everything, but I also feel like there's a lack of understanding amongst the white people.
I realize that African American people also don't like really understand the problems of white people, and so it's kind of like it's nice to know exactly what the problems are on both sides.
The matter is, we are not
Fair.
integrated.
Fair.
We've desegregated.
Yes.
There are some good black people and some bad black people.
Mm-hmm.
There are some good white people and some bad white people.
Mm-hmm.
So you judge people not based on the color,
Yeah.
but of their character and what do they do.
We are as almost more segregated now than we were before. And our schools are reflective of that, separate and unequal.
Yes.
And we're talking about education. So let's do something good or bad about your current educational experience.
A major setback is simply the lack of opportunity that black students have and access to good, decent education here in the city of New Orleans.
There's not much flexibility in what I learn.
And something bad about the educational system is all of the testing that they have going on, because you're always testing, so you're barely in class actually learning things. And then you learn things, and like you learn like 3 or 4 things in one day, and then it's just like the next day you go back to class, you learn something new. So it's like you barely have time to just rest your brain.
One thing that has been good about my education is we have more than 3-4 teachers in class helping students to learn, understand.
One thing that I don't like about the school system is the standardization of it.
The lack of teachers that actually want to teach.
They
don't have the heart out to teach, they just go for the money.
My job, it's like I never work, I enjoy it. And I think teachers should be the same way. Don't be there for a paycheck. Be there because you enjoy working with the kids, and teaching them. If you're doing it just for the paycheck, it's going to hurt the community, and we're going to see the results by failure.
Do you believe that we're seeing those results?
Yeah, we're seeing them every day.
Last year I had a teacher that she outright told me she only here for the money. And I asked her why. She was just saying, like, why do I want to teach a set of students that aren't here to learn? They just forced to come here. And I had to sit back and I had to let that sink in. I'm like, well, you're right. We do have a lot of children that just come just because they don't want to be on the street. We have a lot of kids that come because they just want to have a meal at lunch. And I was one of those problem child. One of those problem children. This time I met Mr. Lennon. Like, he got to help me.
Yeah, wait. No, I know. But I'm gonna cut you off. I have to. You are not a problem child. No. Children need to be developed. Everybody has problems. You are not a problem child. I'm just stopping you to say that. That's all. You are not a problem child. It's my pleasure to know you.
Teachers are like pastors and coaches, and you're leaders. You know what I'm saying? So if you got a few kids in the school that are being misled, you that'll change their life. You know what I'm saying? You can turn their life around by being that leader, because they might not have that leader at home or in the community. You see what I'm saying? And that's what I try to do in my community.
I love it. Ms. Shawan, what's your perspective of the education
My perspective,
system?
and it's twofold. I am a former educator, so I was in the system, the New Orleans public school system prior to the hurricane with New Orleans public schools, and after the hurricane with the Recovery School District. And as an educator, we have to figure out how students learn and how do we present information to them so that they can acquire what they need to so that they can succeed.
No doubt.
And not to present information such that it's the child's fault that he or she can't learn.
But we have teachers who care. That's going to be critical when we talk about education. Who care for all of the students, especially those who need the extra help.
think that whatever steps I done made, and really folks try to identify me as a freedom writer, but I'm a freedom fighter. I started this initiative in terms of resistance 9, 10 years old. My father was a seaman, and he took the screen down the streetcar and told me to sit down. Well, there was no whites all there on the streetcar. Sometime later, I was coming from my daily routine. I used to carry a top, a spinning top, a ball in a sock, and marbles. So anywhere I would go, I could engage in games. But I was tired when I got on the streetcar that time, and it was crowded. And I sat in the front of the screen, and the white folks went crazy on the streetcar. The young people should pay attention to this piece. An elderly black woman came up, grabbed me, slapped me side of my head, and told me I should be ashamed of disrespecting the good white folks. Then these great teachers and my mother in the house would wait with me, and these teachers designed this thing they call group teaching or team teaching. Like this in the late 40s, these black teachers were doing that. And they done made it became a major step in education, and they didn't give them no credit.
Do you all believe that teaching is happening in the homes?
In my personal experience, yes, it's taught in the homes because my mom, she taught me, I teach you your personal core values. I don't send you to school to get parenting. But as a whole, I think that there is a lack in the Black community as it regards to, the family unit and people, just the parent support. And when you don't have that, then and you go to school and you don't have that, I think that just people, it's almost like a setback.
I do believe that there is some education being taught at home, just not by bright people. They're learning from other things like social media. Kids around them who also don't have parents home who are simply learning from what they see in the streets or what they see on TV. It's not the right teaching, but there's definitely being something taught.
The teacher went to his mother and said, we need you to be more present at home. And she was like, I don't care. She said those words. If teachers don't care, and if parents don't care, what reason is there for the children and for the students to care?
They have a single parent household, but their mom has like 2 jobs and she's barely making it. And their mentality about life after high school is, I'm going to go to trade school or something like that. But when I look at my life after high school, I'm like, I want to go to this university or that university. So how do we connect those things, especially like this mentality that you have in private school to public school?
I peeped that a lot of my peers, they just feel as if they're here just because their parents sent them. They don't want to be home. They just, as well. And they don't respect the teacher. They don't respect themselves. And it's sad because the parents are okay with it. And the parents are okay with their children not promoting to anything. And the student as well. No one wants to develop a new skill. No one wants to learn something new. No one wants to push themselves. And the parents aren't pushing themselves. So it translates to school. Like if my teacher sees it, and I'm going to have certain of my teachers that are, look, I'm going to try to help you out to the best of my ability. But if you don't want to do anything, and if you're going to go home and your home members aren't trying to instill in like, you could be better than me, you could be better than the person next to you, you could be better than your sister.
The parent is not just your biological parent. In my experience, there's a collective parent. I was in jail where a man was eating his feces, and I knew based on my teaching that I had to stand up with some others in prison to protect this man. You see? But the point is, we got to step back. We got to see that we have a collective parent. Yeah. And we don't have that kind of management of child on the street.
I just wanted to share the importance of understanding that children learn where they live. Realizing that education goes beyond just book learning, but also that our community is our classroom. Young people, you have to take the responsibility upon yourself. No one's going to teach you how to free yourself. So you're going to have to be responsible for your own education.
As generations come, I feel like we have children younger and younger. When you're raising a child and you're still a child, you still want to be a child and do childlike things. Like they feel like it's more, oh, well, I'm in my youth, so I want to do youthful things. I don't want to sit at home and teach my child stuff.
See, that's a good point, because I made my first son when I was 15. And before I think I turned 16, I had my second son. And right now I just signed a young artist, and he have 2 kids and 1 on the way. And I tell him, like, I'm not worrying about you, I'm worrying about teaching you to raise your kids. I've given up a lot to raise my 2 kids. You know what I'm saying? My 2 boys, I give up a lot. And I lost my oldest son at 20. You see what I'm saying? But I give a lot for them. Like you said, a lot of people want to have kids young, but once you bring that responsibility into this world, it's on you. I understood that. A lot of people don't.
Why do you think our community are having children younger and younger?
Because we was kidnapped. And young girls were raped. And men, they had this thing called breaking the buck, where white men would rape black men, where our values as human beings were erased. This is not a present day. It's not just a young girl whose sexuality and she make babies like a machine. It's not just that. It's something deeper than that.
From my appreciation, we've always had children early, but we had those children so that they could help out at a different point in time. For example, my grandfather had a farm, so they had 13 children because the children worked the farm. We're in a different generation now, and we're still having children, but how do we support the children if they don't necessarily go and grow the food so that they can eat and sew the clothes? Because of technology, because of how things have changed, because of what they're exposed to, it has created something that we're not familiar with, and we have to figure out how to adjust and fit into, or how to carve out some new direction that we need to move as a family.
Slavery and historical deprivation had nothing to do with the brother having 6 children at age 30.
That's correct.
I ain't blaming that on the white man. That's on us.
I sometimes see the same cycle repeating because we, as parents, enable our children. And so what you generally see happening oftentimes is a teenage mother who had a child as a teenager, and then the vision for their children or their daughters is that, oh, if I have a baby, it's going to be okay because my mama going to, help me, take the baby. And if I have another baby, the same thing is going to happen. I got that support system, not realizing that the support system is severely strained and not really as supportive as it needs to be in order to give the children the foundation and the core values and stuff that they really need.
When you know what the problem is, the only solution is action.
Share something that we can do towards the solution of our problems.
I'd like to see 300 people come together for 4 Saturdays, half day, and discuss a vision. Where are we going the next 3 years, 30 years? And how are we going to get there? And they don't have to be all black, but they have to be real and realize things that we've said today. Because if we don't have a vision, and if we don't have an agenda, we're going to perish.
Things that we can do is educate and also help new generations understand that they can be better than the past generation.
Knowing ourselves, and a part of that is celebrating Black History 365 days a year.
Not just 28?
Not just in February. And also practicing the Nguzo Saba, the 7 principles of unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, familyhood and cooperative economics, creativity, purpose, and faith.
The university have to take the place of that grandmother's voice in the house. Have to take that place and use that student body to service these newborn babies, regardless of who's having the baby. They could send them a birthday card every year and saying, we expect you to be in school at this university in the year such and such and such. Now, what happens there, that mama can brag on the fact, Xavier have interest in my baby, and my baby's only a week old and they got a card but already, and organize those college students. When kids go to college, say, well, I can reach to lift my brother or sister up by servicing one of these babies and make that a mission in our schools.
The youth that is coming up, give them support, and so they can have a better mentality of why not get myself out of this current situation rather than just sitting there accepting that they're actually in this situation.
Till we see ourselves as one, as we are family for ourselves. Just because I made it and you didn't make it, I can't, use my personal life against yours. You still are my brother and my sister. We are one. You know what I'm saying? I did a record called We Are Family. And the movement behind that record is to get my people to understand we are family, man. I don't care who made it. We are family, man.
What I envision is there are 351 voting precincts in the city of New Orleans. And if each of us could stand up for our own voting precinct, reach out to our network of people and to increase that participation. So if we get 2 people from each voting precinct, we can have 700 people who can go to city council meetings, who can go to the state legislators, and who can move forth our agenda and our vision. When you go in with 700 people to every city council meeting, you can move the direction of the city.
We need to educate ourselves and our peers about how we are being wronged, and we have to come together as a people to come up with a solution.
It could be something as simple as a sex ed class to teach a kid like something like how to use a condom, or like if you can't stop it, try to help it, because they have kids that are young having sex nowadays, and if you teach them how to protect themselves while doing it, because let's be real, if you tell somebody to stop it, like right then and I'm pretty sure they're not going to stop it. It's not going to happen overnight. But if you help them, say, hey, if you do this, stay protected.
It's interesting to realize that we're still dealing with teenage pregnancy as an issue. But I think that our generation has proven that you can live, there is life beyond teenage pregnancy. However, what we need to realize that the rate of sexually transmitted diseases are lethal. They're fatal. And this is something that we cannot live with and we cannot tolerate. So the issue of young people having sex and getting pregnant is one thing, but young people having sex, contracting sexually transmitted diseases, and then transmitting them to other people is like drinking poison, or like you say, inviting somebody into a burning building.
I've been in situations where I've seen young Jewish boys, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, beginning to deal with economic development seriously. We need to begin to examine that too. That should be youth seriously being involved.
What we have to do first is realize our reality. Also, you just have to, you gotta want it. You gotta want a better life for yourself. You gotta want a better life for your people.
A system cannot fail those who it was never designed to protect. So we know that the system of government wasn't necessarily set in our with the intention of all people succeeding, particularly communities of color. Educate, agitate, and organize. Being able to educate people of that reality, being able to agitate systems that don't represent us in order to change them, and then being able to organize folks so that we can form a common agenda and a united front and vision in regards to changing that and making sure that our children don't have to have similar discussions to this extent.
One of the solutions is New Orleans programming, and just talking about how we have to continually fund these programs because we are all products. The youth here are all products of that programming, and we all want better for ourselves. It also has to be responsibility on the parents as well to get your child to these programs, and also not keep it a secret about the programs. Tell other parents about it. Also telling your peers, it's a responsibility to one another to say, oh, are you going to this event?
With that said, this has been my pleasure. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
Disney Channel, so I'm ready.
Rolling camera and action.